If your sales pipeline depends on you personally, you don't have a pipeline, you have a job. And if you're running a B2B service company where your pipeline looks different every month, this video is for you. Not because I'm going to show you a hack, not because there's a magic button inside Apollo that fixes everything, but because most companies at your stage are using Apollo the way a surgeon uses a butter knife. They have the tool, they don't have the system. I'm building an AI outbound consultancy, and I'm documenting the entire architecture publicly. The full stack, Apollo, Clay, Instantly, HubSpot, Fireflies. And today, I want to show you exactly how Apollo operates as the first layer of that engine, not as a lead database, as an infrastructure. If you're a founder, a CEO, or a head of sales at a company doing between $3 to $50 million in revenue, and your outbound is manual, inconsistent, or bottlenecked on you personally, stay for the next 10 minutes because the way you're sourcing contacts right now is probably the reason your pipeline is broken. Now, before I get into Apollo specifically, I want you to see the full architecture because Apollo doesn't work in isolation. It works as the first stage of a 5-layer system. Layer 1 is Apollo. That's lead sourcing and contact level targeting. It's where we define who we're going after with surgical precision. Then there's layer 2. It's Clay. That's data enrichment. We take the raw contacts from Apollo and run them through a research engine that adds context, personalization signals, and scoring. And then layer 3 is Instantly. That's the email infrastructure, multiple sending domains, warmed mailboxes, deliverability management. It's how the messages actually reach the inbox. Layer 4 is HubSpot. That's the CRM and the orchestration layer. Every lead, every touch point, every deal stage visible in one place. Layer 5 is Fireflies. That's call intelligence. Every sales conversation recorded, transcribed, and analyzed so the team gets better every month. When these 5 layers work together, you get something most B2B service companies between 3 and 50 million never had. A predictable pipeline that operates without a founder sitting in the chair doing manual outreach every morning. But it starts with Apollo. And if Apollo is set up wrong, nothing downstream works. Garbage in, garbage out. So let me show you what most companies get wrong, and then I'll walk you through exactly how I build it. When I analyze how companies at this stage use Apollo, the same pattern shows up over and over. The first problem is they treat Apollo like a search engine. They type in a job title, maybe a location, hit search, and export whatever comes back. No Boolean logic, no layered filters, no saved searches, just a keyword and a prayer. The second problem is they export too broadly. They pull 5,000 contacts with loose targeting and then send them all into a generic email sequence. The reply rates are terrible. The meetings that do come through are unqualified, and then they blame the tool. The third problem is they let Apollo do too many jobs. They're sourcing contacts in Apollo, running sequences in Apollo, trying to track engagement in Apollo. But Apollo is excellent at one thing: finding the right people. The moment you try to make it do enrichment, sending, and CRM work, you're building on a foundation that wasn't designed for it. In the system I'm constructing, Apollo has one job. One, identify and export high precision contacts that match a defined ideal client profile. That's it. Everything else happens downstream. This is a principle I call strict tool rule enforcement. Every platform in the stack serves a single specific purpose. When you blur those lines, you get data quality issues, deliverability problems, and a pipeline that looks busy but produces nothing. Let me show you how I actually build this inside Apollo for a company in the $3 to $50 million range. The first filter is revenue. I'm setting a floor of 3 million and a ceiling of 50 million in annual revenue. This eliminates 2 categories of companies we don't want. companies too small to invest in revenue infrastructure, and companies too large where procurement cycles kill deals. Next is employee count. I'm filtering between 10 and 250 employees. This correlates with our revenue band and tells us something important about their sales structures. Companies in this range typically have a founder who's still involved in selling and a small sales team of 1 to 6 reps and no dedicated RevOps function. That's our buyer. Now, geography, I'm targeting specific cities. For me, it's Vancouver, Sydney, Calgary, Brisbane, Melbourne. These are English-speaking B2B markets where the ICP is concentrated. I'm not casting a global net. I'm targeting specific markets where I can build density and reputation. Then industry, this is where most people are too vague. Personally, I'm filtering for B2B service companies specifically, marketing agencies, lead generation agencies, consulting firms, fractional executive firms, implementation companies. These are businesses that sell high-ticket, relationship-driven services and need consistent, qualified conversations to grow. I'm not targeting e-commerce. I'm not targeting local service businesses. I'm not targeting enterprise. And finally, title. This is where the precision matters most. I'm targeting founder, CEO, head of sales, VP of sales, head of growth. In companies under 10 million in revenue, the buyer is almost always the founder or CEO. Above 10 million, it shifts to the head of sales or VP of sales. I'm building separate lists for each persona because the messaging downstream in Clay and Instantly will be different for each. Now, look at this. Instead of a vague search returning tens of thousands of loosely matched contacts, I have a filtered, precise list of people who match the exact profile of the company that needs what I'm building. That's the difference between a search engine and infrastructure. One more thing I want to point out is I'm also looking at technology signals. If a company is using HubSpot as their CRM, but does not have Outreach or SalesLoft or Gong in their tech stack, that's a strong indicator. It means they're invested in a CRM, but haven't invested in sales automation or call intelligence. That gap is exactly what this system fills. And I'm looking at hiring signals too. If a company has posted a job for an SDR or a BDR in the last 30 days, that tells me they're trying to solve a pipeline problem with headcount. This system gives them an alternative, more pipeline without the additional salary, ramp time, and management overhead. Now to clarify, some of these filters exist natively inside Apollo at a basic level. But deeper signal layering, things like recent company news, LinkedIn activity patterns, intent scoring, that happens later inside Clay, where we can run AI enrichment across dozens of data points. But I'll break that down in another video. Once the filters are locked, the export has to be clean. This sounds obvious, but most companies skip this step and create a data quality problem that infects everything downstream. I'm exporting in batches of 250 to 500 contacts per ICP segment, not thousands, and that's so each batch is a defined cohort that will move through Clay for enrichment as a unit. The fields I export are specific: first name, last name, company name, title, email, company revenue, employee count, industry, and LinkedIn, as well as company URLs. That's it. No extra fields that create noise. Everything else gets added during enrichment in Clay. Now, this is where the system thinking comes in. Apollo's job is to give me a clean, targeted starting point. Clay's job is to layer on intelligence. If I try to do Clay's work inside Apollo, I end up with messy data, inconsistent personalization, and sequences that sound like they were written by someone who didn't do their research. Because they didn't. The system is supposed to do the research, but only if each layer does its own job. So here's the flow. Apollo exports a clean CSV file of targeted contacts. That CSV gets imported into a Clay table, where each contact goes through a waterfall enrichment process. We're pulling companies' news, LinkedIn activity, tech stack data, and running AI-generated personalization. Each contact comes out the other side with context that makes every message relevant. From Clay, the enriched contacts move into Instantly, where they enter sequences sent from warmed domains with optimized deliverability. The emails land in inboxes, not spam folders. When a prospect responds or books a meeting, HubSpot captures everything. Every touchpoint, every deal stage, every follow-up task is tracked automatically. And when the meetings happen, Fireflies records and transcribes the conversation. Objection tracking, conversation insights, coaching loops. The team gets better every single month without guessing. This is not 5 disconnected tools. This is one system with 5 layers, and Apollo is the foundation. If the contacts coming out of Apollo are wrong, every layer after it is wasting time and money. If the contacts are right, the entire engine accelerates. Let me make this concrete. Imagine a $12 million B2B implementation firm, about 25 employees. The founder is still heavily involved in generating pipeline. They have 2 or 3 salespeople, but no structural outbound. Pipeline comes through referrals, the founder's personal network, and a handful of inbound leads. Their deal structures look like this. Average contract value is about $10,000 a month. Average client's lifetime is 18 to 24 months. So the true value of each deal is somewhere between $180,000 to $240,000 over the lifetime of a contract. But right now, they're generating about 6 qualified meetings a month. They close roughly 25%. That's 1 to 2 new clients per month, adding 10 to 20,000 in monthly recurring revenue. But their goal is to move from 12 million to 15 million over the next 12 to 18 months. That's an additional 3 million in revenue, which translates to roughly 250,000 in new monthly recurring revenue across the year. To hit that, they need to go from 1 to 2 new clients per month to a consistent 3 to 4. The math is clear. They don't need twice as many leads. They need to go from 6 qualified meetings a month to 12 to 15. And they need those meetings to be with the right people at the right companies so the close rates hold. That's a systems problem, not a headcount problem, not a hustle problem, a systems problem. This is the exact type of company I'm building this consultancy to serve. And the first thing I do is open Apollo. I build a saved search in Apollo that identifies their exact buyer. The companies that have implementation services in the right revenue band, in the right markets, with the right decision makers. I build separate lists for founders, for head of sales, for the operations leaders. Each list gets a different downstream message because each persona has a different pain point. That's 250 contacts per segment, exported clean, ready for Clay enrichment. Within a week, those contacts have been enriched, personalized, and loaded into sequence. Within 3 weeks, meetings are showing up on the calendar, not from the founder's personal outreach, from the system. The founder's calendar starts filling with qualified conversations they didn't personally source. Their CRM shows exactly where every deal stands. And Fireflies is capturing every call so the sales team improves without the founders coaching every rep individually. And it all started with Apollo, with the right filters, with the right export, with the right system thinking. Now, Apollo is not a lead generation tool. It's the first layer of a revenue infrastructure. And the difference between a company that uses Apollo to search for contacts and a company that uses Apollo as the foundation of a predictable pipeline is the difference between manual outreach and a system that compounds. If you're running a B2B service company with revenue between 3 and 50 million and your pipeline is inconsistent, referral independent, or bottlenecked on the founder, the problem is not that you need more leads. The problem is that you don't have infrastructure. So I'm launching a founding partners program in April, where I'll work hands-on with 3 to 5 B2B service companies in this range to install the system from the ground up. If you want to be one of those founding partners, stay tuned. And if you want to build this yourself, keep watching because I'm breaking down the entire architecture publicly. In the next video, I'll break down how Clay turns raw contacts into personalized outreach that actually converts. I'll see you